Recognition is one of the most important parts of speed cubing, and it's something that can always be improved. I'm going to be showing some general tricks for getting better at recognizing PLL cases. A common thing to do is to do U-turns or Y rotations while trying to figure out what case you have. Then once you figure it out, you do either more U-turns or more rotations to have it at the correct angle. Then you perform the algorithm, and you might have to finish off with more U-turns. This is not a good habit to get into because you end up doing a lot more U-turns and Y rotations than necessary. Ideally, you shouldn't need to do any moves or rotations to figure out what case you have. In fact, PLLs on a 3x3 can always be recognized by only seeing two sides. It's actually not too difficult to get out of the habit of doing too many U-turns before and after the PLL recognition. What I did when I used to do this was I would practice by not doing any rotations or any U-turns and telling you what case I had. So when I had a case like this, I would think about it first. Then when I knew what it was, I would rotate it to have it at the correct angle. Then I would perform the algorithm for it. There were several cases that were much more difficult, and for these ones I would allow myself to see three sides to figure it out. So if I see these two sides and I have no idea what PLL it is, I would allow myself just to do one U or U prime turn. And once I do that turn, I wouldn't allow myself to undo it. I'd have to remember what was on the other side that I saw earlier. When I was first trying this out, my solves were slower than what I was averaging, but after a while my times were actually improving because I was getting used to recognizing the cases more efficiently. I mentioned earlier that all the PLL cases can be recognized by just looking at two sides. Here's the reason why two sides gives enough information for determining what case you have. When you see two sides plus the U face, you see one whole corner, two whole edges, and you also see 2/3 of two more corners. Each sticker on the two sides of these two corners is determined by our color scheme, and the stickers of the remaining corner are also determined because it's the only corner left. Furthermore, you can only have an even number of two-way swaps, so there's only one possible way that the remaining two edges at the back are permuted. So by seeing just these 6 stickers of two adjacent sides, it's possible to figure out the remaining 6 because there's only one possible PLL case it can be. I find that the most useful thing to look at while recognizing PLLs is to look at the corner permutation, simply because when you see two sides, the corners give more information than the edges do, and it's easy to categorize the PLLs based on their corner permutation. There are only 3 ways that the corners of the last layer can be permuted. You will either have all corners solved, 2 opposite corners solved, or 2 adjacent corners solved. When there are a set of headlights, which are 2 matching colors on each side, all corners are solved. When each side has a set of 2 opposite colors, 2 diagonal corners are solved. When only one side has a set of headlights, 2 adjacent corners are solved. The solved corners are the ones that make up the headlights. When only one side has a set of 2 opposite colors, 2 adjacent corners are solved. The 2 unsolved corners are the ones that make up the side with the 2 opposite colors, and the 2 solved corners will be on the opposite side. So if you see 2 opposite colors here, that means that the headlights must be on this side. So now I'll get into some techniques that you can use on top of knowing the CP. Knowing the PLLs that have checker patterns, which are a sequence of 2 alternating colors, is useful. There are only 4 PLLs that have this somewhere. They are the V perm, F perm, and both R perms. The R perms have the checker pattern for 5 stickers, whereas the V and F perms only have it for 4. So if you see a checker pattern like this, you have one of the R perms. From these angles, the F and V perms look the same and only one sticker is different. Since the F perm has an adjacent CP and the V perm has a diagonal CP, you can tell them apart by looking at the corner permutation. There are many sets of cases that look similar and are only different because of one sticker. It's not always one of the far corners that differ, so you can't always rely on CP for telling these cases apart. You can, however, Tell them apart by looking at the number of unique sticker colors, if it's one of the edge stickers that differ. Here are some examples. One of these is a U-perm and the other one is a Z-perm, or Z if you're American. It's a U-perm when there are only 3 unique colors, and it's a Z-perm when you see 4. 2 of these are R-perms and the other 2 are T-perms. If you see 3 unique colors, it's an R-perm, and if you see 4, it's a T-perm. Here are 2 different A-perms and 2 different G-perms. It's an A-perm when there are only 3 different visible stickers, and it's a G-perm when there are 4. Whenever you have a case like this, where you don't see a 2x1 block, and there are headlights on one side with the opposite colored edge in between them, you have one of the G-perms, either B or D. Here's a trick to telling the GB and GD apart from these angles. You know that the block is on this side, because it's opposite of the headlights. Assuming you use a standard algorithm for them, the first 3 moves would either be like this, or like this. What you can do is look at the number of unique sticker colors. It'll either be 3 or 4. If you see 3, then you would push this side upwards. So for this case it would look like this, and for this case it would look like this. These would be the first move, and from that move you can figure out the rest of the algorithm. If you see 4 colors, you push that side downwards, which will be the first move. For this case, it'll look like this, and for this case, it'll look like this. Okay, so those are a few tricks for distinguishing between PLLs. There are plenty more, but once you have an idea of what to look for, it's best that you figure out your own ways of telling them apart. Most of the time, just looking at the corner permutation gives you enough information for you to easily figure out the rest on your own. Practicing recognition takes a lot of time before each of the cases becomes second nature, but there are only 71 cases and you probably already know about half of it. So hopefully this video was helpful. I'll be making more videos like this later this summer, including a full tutorial on my approach to two-side recognition, which I already have a written guide for here. So bye!